I do is not rock. I use a rock instrumentation with rock musicians and a rock approach. But I don't call myself a rock composer because I have too much respect for the field. You know, coming out of classical music, and I'm, you know, really approaching it respectfully. I don't want to appropriate it, you know, but I'm playing in a rock context. Because I'm doing field work, I'm acting as a secret agent, you know, in another field, and I'm trying to be respectful. And, you know, please don't throw too many beer bottles at me. And but they liked it. And so for a person coming out of classical contemporary music, they might hear it as a new strain of minimalism, whereas the people in a rock context were hearing it as a different flavor of wall of noise. Emotionally, I consider myself part of the classical tradition, but for the greater part of my life, I've played in rock and jazz clubs. The nice thing about music coming out of the classical tradition is that really you can do anything you want within its context. Whereas with rock, you can bend the borders, but there's a certain point where you break it and it's no longer rock. Huh? Feed a piano, a bale, a hay. And that was a piece, or let a butterfly out of the jar. If you can do that in a concert hall, you can do anything in a concert hall. So of course, you know, I could do a piece that is influenced by Jimmy Page or Jimi Hendrix and play it in a classical context, you know, and be very daring. But it's not daring at all, because you can do anything you want in the avant-garde context after composers like John Cage and Nam June Paik. So for me in '77, the trick was, could I play it at CBGB's in Max's Kansas City? Because that was another whole thing. Because back then there was an issue of, are you posing or are you not posing? Are you a real rocker? And there's a question about whether I was a rocker or not. I don't have any tattoos. You know, there was you know, needles sticking out of my arm. There was a real question of authenticity. And back, I don't know if I said this to you before, forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but if you played at Max's and they liked you, you would get beer bottles thrown at you with the beer still in it. And that's if they liked you. And it was really violent back then. And if they didn't like you, you can imagine what would have happened. So the first time we played the guitar trio at Max's, all the people involved were coming out of a rock context. The instrumentation was a rock context, and the approach was rock. The only thing that was classical about it was that the primary harmonic and melodic vocabulary were the overtones, so it was going out of minimalism, and my background is a harpsichord tuner. But was that going to work in a rock context or not? I didn't know. Why 100 guitars? Robert Longo would have said, for any guitarist, the answer is obvious, for the sheer visceral experience. But this is a very good question, because it's something that I asked myself in '82. I started out writing for 3 electric guitars, and I upped the number to 6. And then at that point, I said, wow, wouldn't it be great if we had 100 electric guitars, put them all in a small room, lock the door, and call it Torture Box. And this was in '82, and it was a punk period, And so the person I was with at the time, a collaborator actually, Carol Armitage, who's a choreographer, heard me thinking about this, and she said, Rhys, I bet you don't know 100 electric guitarists. So we made a bet, and I came up with 80 in '82. This was in '82, but I knew personally. And Carol was kind, and she thought of another 20. And we realized at that precise moment that we could realize the project right then and there. But I didn't do it because I didn't feel I was ready. I felt that if I had done 100 electric guitars right then, it would have been just for the sheer beautiful visual impact of having all these guitars on stage together. I didn't want to do that. I felt I had more research to do to really know what I could do with an orchestration like that. So, in fact, I hadn't composed Die Donnergotte at that point. So my next step was to work with 6 electric guitars, and I did that. That was in the middle '80s. And then by 1989, I felt I was ready. I felt that I could do something that would really, in a very real way, make use of that particular instrumentation. And so we made a piece in 1989 called An Angel Moves Too Fast to See. So what interested me most about the Ramones wasn't so much Joey, although I loved what Joey was doing, but it was just the chord progressions. That it was so simple and so logical, and I felt very close to it. I mean, the music they were doing was like much more sophisticated than the music I was doing. I was working with 1 chord. They were working with 3. So the music they was doing was like highly complex, and I hope that after 20 years I could work in this piece that I'm doing at Lincoln Center. I finally, after how many years has it been? Like 30. I've worked up to 3 chords. Because I finally, worked up to the level of the Ramones. Because it's hard to. Never mind. It's hard to remember more than 1 chord for me as a minimalist composer. Symphony number 4, because I was working with the cut-up technique, a la Kathy Acker in Williamsboro, with a piece by Bruckner. But I thought of that piece, and someone asked me to do something for orchestra, and they asked me to take this symphony and fuck it up for my dance company. And that's what I did. It ended up being quite nice. Okay, it's very different writing for a regular orchestra than an orchestra of many guitars, because with guitars it's 1 timbre. When you have an orchestra, you have many different colors you can do with woodwinds and brass, etc., etc. The problem always is for composers is having access to this instrument, because it's a very, very expensive instrument. I myself haven't had access to it. It's just worked out that way, so I haven't written that much for it. It's the only reason I haven't. It's a beautiful, beautiful instrument. I have nothing against the classical orchestra, you see. I just wanted to throw that in. Get that on the record.